Have you ever heard the universe sing, "It's February 14th, 2026, and just 6 hours ago, something extraordinary happened that could redefine everything we know about astrophysics"? Imagine the massive antennas of NASA's Deep Space Network in Goldstone, California, usually aimed at distant comets or asteroids. Normally, when these antennas lock onto a celestial body, we hear chaos, a hiss, static, a mess of random noise, like the universe itself talking in its own scrambled language. It's the noise of entropy. But today, at exactly 8:42 UTC, NASA's DSS-14 antenna locked onto a comet called 3I Atlas, and it didn't hear chaos. Instead, it heard a tone, an unbroken, perfectly continuous sine wave. This wasn't just any random noise. It was a precise sound, vibrating at exactly 432 Hertz. For a moment, let that sink in. In physics, the odds of a natural object in space emitting a pure tone like this, let alone at a perfect frequency like 432 Hertz, are essentially zero. The probability? Less than 1 in 4 billion. Nature is chaotic, filled with noise. But intelligence creates harmony, and 432 Hertz? It's not just any number. In acoustic theory, this is known as Verdi's a tone that is mathematically aligned with the geometry of the universe. Some call it the miracle tone, and others claim it's the frequency of biological healing. Now, picture this. An object 180 million kilometers away from Earth is sending this frequency directly toward our planet. To put this into perspective, when pulsars were first discovered in 1967, they were called little green men because of their rhythmic clock-like signals. But pulsars are not perfect. They drift and glitch over time. This signal from 3I Atlas is different. Its frequency is as stable as an atomic clock, with precision to the power of -15. Think about it. A rock and ice-covered comet tumbling through the vacuum of space can't produce such stability, let alone hold a pitch-perfect note. So, the real question isn't, what is 3I Atlas? It's, why is it humming? Is it some sort of resonance from the object's internal structure? Could it be interacting with solar wind? Or, here's a chilling possibility that keeps physicists awake at night. Is it a carrier wave? Because 432 Hertz is famous for one thing, resonance. If you hit the right frequency, you don't just make sound, you can change the physical structure of objects around you. Think about an opera singer breaking a glass, not with volume, but with the right pitch. And today, 3I Atlas just started singing. But it gets even stranger. NASA wasn't the only one to hear this. Just 5 minutes after the initial detection, the European Space Agency, ESA, in New Norcia, Australia, pointed its own antenna toward the same coordinates. Their antennas weren't looking for audio, they were after telemetry. What they found, however, was impossible. ESA's data didn't just confirm the 432 Hertz signal, it showed something even more astonishing. They visualized it. The spectrograms revealed that what NASA was hearing wasn't just a radio signal, it was magnetic resonance. The magnetic field lines around 3I Atlas were vibrating. Pause and think about what this means. A radio signal is made up of photons, particles of light. But a magnetic resonance? That's the manipulation of the magnetic field itself. To generate such a field, you need something massive, like a dynamo, a rotating metallic core. But here's the thing, 3I Atlas is supposed to be a comet, a dirty snowball, a mix of ice, dust, and rock. Ice doesn't generate magnetic fields, dust doesn't hold resonant frequencies. So, we have NASA detecting a sound, and ESA confirming the existence of a magnetic vibration. Two independent sources, different methods, but the same astonishing conclusion. At this point, the data just keeps getting stranger. So, let's take a step back and consider what we actually know about 3I Atlas. When we first spotted it in late 2025, we categorized it as a hyperbolic comet. This means it's not from our solar system, it's a visitor from the deep void between stars. It's falling toward the sun at a speed of 87 kilometers per second. For months, it behaved like a typical comet, silent, tumbling through space. But something changed on February 14th. The moment it crossed the orbit of Mars, the singing began. And this wasn't just a single tone. This is where the laws of physics start to break down. 2 hours after NASA's detection, the ALMA Observatory in Chile joined the search. ALMA focuses on the cold chemistry of the universe, particularly molecules. The team turned their Band 7 receivers toward the coma, the cloud of gas surrounding the comet's nucleus. Normally, a comet's coma expands chaotically into space, but what ALMA found was completely different. The gas molecules, water, carbon monoxide, methanol weren't moving randomly. They were oscillating, they were pulsing in perfect concentric rings. Imagine dropping a pebble into a steel pond and watching perfect ripples move outward. That's what the gas around 3I Atlas was doing. But here's the impossibility. There's no atmosphere in space to carry sound waves. So how are these ripples maintaining their shape? The answer, according to the data, is that the electromagnetic signal emitted by 3I Atlas at 432 Hz is physically aligning the gas molecules around it. This is known as cymatics, the study of visible sound. But here's the kicker. Structuring gas in a vacuum requires an immense amount of energy, and according to the calculations, 3I Atlas is outputting approximately 4 gigawatts of power into this resonance alone. That's the output of 4 nuclear power plants. Where would a 2-kilometer wide rock get 4 gigawatts of energy? Solar panels? None. Nuclear fusion? Impossible at that scale. Let that sink in. We're observing an object that is breaking the law of energy conservation. It's outputting more power than it's absorbing from the sunday. As a physicist, when you see an object defying thermodynamics, you're faced with two possibilities. Either our understanding of physics is wrong, or the object itself is artificial. And that brings us to the next piece of the puzzle, the harmonics. As the day progressed, the signal from 3I Atlas began to evolve. It didn't drift, as you might expect. It stepped. At 12 UTC, the frequency spiked. It doubled instantly from 432 Hz to 864 Hz. For those familiar with music, this is a perfect octave. But nature doesn't do octaves. Nature does gradients. When stars spin faster, their frequency slides upward. When black holes merge, the frequency shifts in a continuous manner. But this jump from 432 to 864 Hz was instantaneous. This isn't something you'd see in a natural system. It's a deliberate shift. The precision of the frequency change remained absolute, deviating by less than 0.000001 Hz. By 14 UTC, observatories all over the world were abandoning their scheduled observations to focus on 3I Atlas. The Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia, the FAST Telescope in China, and the VLA in New Mexico all synchronized in their efforts. The data they gathered revealed something extraordinary. The continuous hum from 3I Atlas wasn't just a constant tone anymore. It now had a pattern, a modulation. Every 1.618 seconds, the amplitude of the signal dipped exactly by 5%. Does that number sound familiar? It should. That's the golden ratio, phi, found in the spiral of galaxies, the arrangement of leaves on a stem, and even the proportions of the human body. It's the mathematical signature of life itself. Now, we have a comet that's emitting a healing frequency of 432 Hz, shifting in perfect octaves and pulsing in sync with the golden ratio. If you were designing a signal to communicate, to announce your presence in the most universal, mathematically recognizable way possible, this is exactly how you would do it. But of course, there are always skeptics. And they've argued that perhaps this isn't anything more than a rotational anomaly. Maybe the object is spinning in such a way that it mimics these frequencies, but that theory lasted for exactly 3 hours. Because at 17 UTC, 3I Atlas did something a spinning rock cannot do. It didn't just emit sound, it started to absorb it. The cosmic microwave background radiation behind the object dimmed, as if the object was creating a silent zone around itself. It was actively damping the noise of the universe, making its own signal clearer. This is a technique used in noise-canceling headphones, but nature doesn't create noise-canceling headphones. This was the moment when the scientific community stopped being curious and started being alarmed. An object that can actively manipulate its electromagnetic environment is not a passive traveler, it's a machine. And if it's a machine, it has a purpose. So, what is that purpose? Let me show you in the next part as we explore the physics behind why this 432 Hz frequency is not just a coincidence. It could be a weapon, or a key, a tool of communication, or a warning. Because when we modeled what happens when a 432 Hz frequency hits the ionosphere of a planet like Earth, the results were far from reassuring. When we talk about resonance in physics, it's usually in simple terms. Think of a guitar string. You pluck it, and it vibrates, producing sound. But in astrophysics, resonance isn't just about sound, it's the most powerful force in the universe. It's like pushing a swing at the exact right moment to add more energy, or when wind pushes a bridge at just the right frequency, like the Tacoma Narrows Bridge disaster in 1940, it can tear steel apart. That's the power of resonance. And 432 Hz isn't just a pleasant number, it's a mathematical key embedded in the very geometry of physical matter. Let's focus on water for a moment. A water molecule is a dipole with a positive and a negative end. When you hit water with random noise, nothing happens. But when you hit it with a coherent frequency, specifically one that aligns with its hydrogen bond vibrations, you can structure the water. The human body is 70% water. The Earth's surface is 70% water. Now, imagine an object the size of Manhattan emitting a focused beam of 432 Hz directly at our planet. The results, as our simulations show, are deeply disturbing. When 432 Hz hits the Earth's ionosphere, the High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, HAARP, in Alaska, detected a phase shift. The ionosphere, the layer of plasma that protects us from solar radiation, began to vibrate in response to the signal. This is what we call global resonance. The entire upper atmosphere started ringing like a bell. We call this entrainment when a stronger signal forces a weaker system into rhythm. And the rhythm being broadcast by 3I Atlas is mathematically perfect. But here's where the physics become truly impossible. According to the inverse square law, any signal radio waves, light, or even gravity should weaken the farther it travels. If you move twice as far away, the signal should be 4 times weaker. But the data from the Voyager 1 probe, which is currently 24 billion kilometers away, and from the Parker Solar Probe, skimming the Sun, shows the exact same signal strength. This means that the signal isn't weakening with distance. It's not a broadcast. It's a tunnel. In quantum mechanics, we call this a non-local interaction. It suggests that 3I Atlas isn't simply pushing radio waves through space. It's manipulating the fabric of spacetime itself, transmitting information instantaneously without loss. This violates Einstein's theory of relativity, which says nothing can travel faster than light. But if the signal is standing still and space is moving around it, we may be dealing with the technology of a Type 2 or Type 3 civilization, an advanced species far beyond our own. But the real question is, what's inside this object? What is the content of this impossible signal? Well, when the SETI Institute in California ran a Fourier transform on the 432 Hz wave, they were looking for hidden data. They wanted to find prime numbers, images, or star charts encoded in the signal. What they found was something extraordinary. Buried within the carrier wave was a secondary modulation, a pulse rate of 7.83 Hz. This is the Schumann resonance, the heartbeat of Earth. It's the frequency generated by lightning strikes in the cavity between the ground and the ionosphere. This is the frequency that every living organism on Earth has evolved with for over 3.5 billion years. Why would an interstellar object coming from a completely different star system know the heartbeat of Earth? The odds of this being a coincidence? 1 in 800 trillion. There are only two possibilities. Either this is a coincidence of cosmic proportions, or it knows us. This object, 3I Atlas, has scanned our planet before it arrived. The signal has been calibrated specifically for Earth's biosphere. It's not broadcasting to Jupiter. It's not broadcasting to Mars. It's broadcasting directly to our planet's water and electromagnetic field. And the physics behind this phenomenon suggests something even more profound. We know that certain frequencies can stimulate cellular regeneration. In medicine, we use pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, PEMF, to heal broken bones, often using frequencies in the range of 7.8 Hz. Could it be that 3I Atlas isn't a threat, but a tuning fork, a celestial object, designed to activate life in ways we can't yet fully understand? The concept of panspermia proposes that life is distributed throughout the universe by comets, asteroids, and other celestial bodies. But what if, instead of carrying biological material, 3I Atlas is carrying something else? Vibrational instruction. Imagine a gardener who doesn't plant seeds but sings to the flowers to make them bloom. It may sound poetic, but in physics, sound is just pressure, and pressure organizes matter. This is the power of resonance. However, there's a darker side to this. If you amplify a system too much, it breaks. If you drive the Schumann resonance too hard, you disrupt the circadian rhythms of every human being on Earth. You could disturb the migration patterns of birds, throw off the navigation of whales, and create chaos in ecosystems around the world. And that's exactly what started happening at 2130 UTC. Reports began to pour in from all over the world. Whales in New Zealand were beating themselves. Flocks of birds in Europe were changing course mid-flight. People were reporting a hum, a vibration they couldn't hear with their ears but could feel in their teeth, a pressure in their inner ear. This was the hum phenomenon, but on a global scale. The 432 Hz frequency, amplified by Earth's atmosphere, was interacting with the neurological systems of biological life. We are bioelectrical beings. Our brains operate on electrical frequencies, alpha, beta, and theta waves. The alpha state, the state of relaxed awareness, exists between 8 and 12 Hz. But the signal from 3I Atlas is pulsing at 7.83 Hz, right at the boundary between theta and alpha states, the threshold between dreaming and relaxed awareness. It's forcing the entire planet into a meditative state. But is this forced meditation or forced shutdown? Because at 22:15 UTC, the signal changed again. This time, it didn't just add a pulse, it added a sequence. The sequence was binary on, off, off. And the timing of this sequence matched the Fibonacci sequence perfectly. This is the universal code for growth. It's how a nautilus shell spirals. It's how galaxies form. This is not just a signal, it's a message. And the message is, I am the architect. Just as we were starting to decode this sequence, just as the world began to wonder if this was the first contact we had been waiting for, something extraordinary happened. The object itself changed. The telescopes tracking 3I Atlas saw something that no one could have expected. There was a flash, a transformation. The coma, the gas cloud surrounding the comet, didn't just glow as it passed through space. Instead, it formed a rigid, geometric structure, a hexagon. This isn't just any shape. It's a perfect six-sided plane of ionized gas, thousands of kilometers wide, locked in place around the comet's nucleus. Hexagons have appeared in nature before. Saturn's North Pole has a massive hexagonal storm, but that's fluid dynamics created by a rotating planet. This, however, is a solitary object in the vacuum of space. A hexagon doesn't form in a vacuum without containment. And then it pulsed. At the exact center of this geometric cloud, something else happened. The nucleus of 3I Atlas opened up not physically, but energetically. A beam of coherent blue light shot out from the center directly away from the Sunday. This wasn't gravitational assist. It wasn't solar wind pressure. This was propulsion and active main engine burn. The object accelerated by 4 kilometers per second in a single second. That's 14,000 kilometers per hour. For any biological organism inside this ship, that level of acceleration would be fatal. It would subject the organism to 400 times the force of gravity. Nothing made of meat and bone could survive that unless the interior was inertialess. Unless they've mastered the manipulation of gravity fields to cancel out acceleration. But here's the detail the media missed. When the beam fired, the 432 Hz signal didn't stop. It amplified by a factor of 10, and Earth's magnetosphere reacted. The Van Allen radiation belts expanded. They puffed up like a balloon. The interaction between 3I Atlas's signal and our planet's shield created a standing wave of energy that enveloped the entire Earth. For 12 seconds, the entire planet was encased in a protective resonance chamber. If this was an attack, they would have collapsed our shields. Instead, they reinforced them. And that raises a terrifying question. Why reinforce a shield? You reinforce a shield when something is coming. So, let's establish what we know with absolute certainty. This is not a theory, this is hard data. First, 3I Atlas is emitting a 432 Hz signal, a mathematical impossibility for a natural comet. Second, it is pulsing at 7.83 Hz, the exact heartbeat of Earth's biosphere. Third, it has defied gravity, formed geometric structures, and actively manipulated Earth's magnetic field. These are all documented observations. But one question remains unanswered, one question that the emergency briefing at the United Nations this morning carefully avoided. If 3I Atlas is the tuner, what is the orchestra? In physics, you don't tune an instrument after the concert has started. You tune it before, you reinforce the stage before the weight drops. The reinforcement of the Van Allen belts suggests that Earth is about to be subjected to an energy event unlike anything we've ever seen before. It could be a solar flare, a gamma ray burst, or something much larger than a 2-kilometer scout ship. As we watch, the Deep Space Network is tracking a new anomaly. The signal has stopped pulsing. It has become a constant, deafening tone. The tuning is complete. The silence has fallen. The conductor has raised the baton. Whatever is about to happen in our skies, we are ready to receive. This is not just the beginning of contact, it's the beginning of a new phase of human understanding. Keep your eyes on the skies, because we are on the edge of an event that will redefine everything we know about the universe. If you're as fascinated by this as we are, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more updates. And leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think 3i Atlas is trying to tell us?